Hey, welcome to Life and Leadership with David Gadberry. I'm David Gadberry, and today we're going to do something just a little bit different than we normally do. And first of all, I want to just say thank you for being a part of our leadership network and listening to our podcast. And if you do me a favor, if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, make sure you go up and subscribe and then hit that little bell that causes you to know every time we put a new podcast out. And then if you're watching this on any of the other podcast platforms, please subscribe. It just lets us know that the content that we're putting out there is helping and adding value to people. And listen, that's our whole goal here at Gadberry Leadership Coaching. We want to help you discover and develop and deploy your potential. And the way that happens is by leadership content and discussion and the coaching things that we offer. So I'd encourage you to go to gadberry.org. You can find everything you need to know about our organization there. And I think we could really be of help to you, your team, your business, or however you would like to see that play out. Be looking for some looking for some group coaching experiences that we do virtually that you can register for soon. And they are very helpful, very synergistic, build you up, strengthen you in developing your potential and your organization in several different ways. So be watching for those. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the power of vision. Now, the power of vision is obvious and it's manifest in any organization that has strong vision. But most of the time when we look at the power of vision, we look at it from the perspective of the person casting the vision. So what I want to do today is talk to some of our team here at Summit Church, not about the perspective of the person casting the vision, which would normally be me. I want to hear it from the perspective of people who are embracing a vision and running with the vision that's been cast to them. It's not a perspective we hear very often, and I think it's very important, and I think it'll help your team. So I would encourage you to have your team tune into this, and I think they will really learn. So thanks for being a part of Gadberry Leadership Coaching today.
Welcome to Life and Leadership with David Gadberry. We're excited that you're joining our leadership community. There's a lot of information about leadership, but a lot of times it's too sterile for real life. Life is messy and leadership can be messy. Here we talk about real leadership in the context of real life. If you're a leader looking for tips, insight, and wisdom on leadership, you can follow David on social media. And for upcoming group coaching experiences and more, go to gadberry.org. David is the lead pastor of Summit Church in Canyon, Texas, and we would love to invite you to be a part. For more information, go to yoursummitchurch.com. This is the Life and Leadership Podcast.
Okay, so how's everybody doing?
Good. Doing good.
Good.
Awesome day.
I'm glad to hear it. So today we want to talk about the power of vision. You know, vision is so important. It's something that we learn in leadership context. It's something that we learn interestingly enough, from a biblical perspective and a biblical context. It's very important. And vision being that, where are we going? What do we see out in the future? And where's that taking us? Mm-hmm. And there's so many components to vision, but here's what we know. We know if we can clearly define and with some enthusiasm cast vision, it can really make a difference in an organization. And I've talked about it and taught about it a lot, about how to do it and when to do it and where to do it. And we all know the great quote from Andy Stanley that vision leaks. And so it's important that it's repetitive and consistent. But those are all perspectives from a position of casting vision and how important it is to do that. But you guys and myself as well, because for 15 years I served the vision of another person, another leader. And so I have a lot of insight into this, but it's been a while. And so I would rather just really hear from you guys from the perspective of grabbing a vision and running with it when it wasn't necessarily the vision you came up with, but it's a vision that you own because it's a part of the organization that you're working with. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you some questions, but the first question I want to ask is just what does vision mean to you as a person on a team?
I'd say it means that there's something we're going after that's bigger than just my thoughts or my opinion or my beliefs or how I see something. It brings everybody together. And I'm so thankful that, since I've been a part of Summit Church, we've always had vision. Mm-hmm. And that, it leaks from you, obviously, but it just empowers it. It allows me to think outside of what I only see and broaden myself, expand my capacity.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, it gives clarity, obviously, and I think it's what you're alluding to as well, Connor. Like if you don't have vision, you're guessing, or you begin to create something, and not that I think you are. It's obvious that you're a leader that empowers people, so you would empower us to do things, but that empowers us in the right direction, and not just, hey, here, you're empowered to do whatever.
Yeah,
we use our creativity, but it gives us good guidelines, good what's the word I'm thinking of?
Parameters.
Parameters of like what we know what we're doing. This should fit in with this, and then you can allow yourself to think, well, this is good, but does it really fit in with vision? So I think it continually allows people to be unified and go in the same direction.
Right.
Yeah. Kind of gives like a roadmap, like if you look at a map, there's 100 different ways to get to one place. And like you're saying, we all can use our different creativities in different ways, but we're all working towards the same goal. And if we don't have that goal for where we're going, then we're just going to go in circles and never grow and never exceed and get to where we want to be.
It's interesting. I was talking to some guys this morning about, back in the days when the West was tamed and people came back in, caravans and wagon trains and just pioneered. And we were talking about how unbelievably hard that must have been. But if they had all differing visions about how to get here, it would have, and did in many cases, cause all kinds of splintering and all kinds of disasters because people weren't on the same page. And it's the same way with our organization. It's interesting that you bring up the map. That's what a leader is. And you guys are all leaders in your own right. I don't think it's necessary for people to say, well, I'm following a vision means I'm not a leader myself.
Right.
Great leaders can embrace vision and I believe take the vision that they have for their life, fold it into the vision of the overall for personal success, but also organizational significance. But, leaders are navigators. They are people who look up into the future and then begin to navigate the way we're going to get there. I think vision could be considered that navigation, that map. It's interesting that, we all of us use GPS so much now, I especially, and it's a great tool, but just think about that. My question's right here. Is one. Just think about trying to go somewhere you've never been with no map. Man, that's hard. Think about even the founding of this country. I was just reading the other day. Columbus thought he was in a completely different place than he actually was. It's a very interesting thing. Not having a map can really mess you up in terms of getting to the destination you're trying to achieve. So in what ways, this is one of the questions I wanted to ask you, in what ways does vision affect you as a team member? Like personally and specifically, how does vision affect you? Connor spoke to it a little bit, but Danny, how does it affect you?
Like, kind of like I said, like if I don't know what our goal is, like I'm over our kids ministry and our global. And if I don't know what we want to do, then I can't do my daily job.
Yeah.
So if I don't have a vision for how big we want our kids ministry, like how many kids we want to come to know the Lord, then I can't go after that in my daily job and just in our every Sunday experiences.
Right. If you don't know where we want to go, it's impossible for you to even make goals.
Right.
Like, how can I even make a goal?
And I'll constantly just be okay with mediocre.
Yeah.
And you'll just stay there.
Because what is the point? Right.
Yeah.
That's good. It's good. Scotty, how does it affect you as a team member, just specifically to your life? How does the vision of the organization affect you?
Well, I mean, I was thinking about this because, when you're serving under someone, and you're especially honestly in any setting, but in a church setting in particular, as a pastor is giving vision to the church and to the direction that you're going. It does give us good guidance and how and what we should do with our teams and direct our teams. But even for me, I think it affects me in a humbling way, because it's a constant, not constant, but there are great opportunities for just checking myself and making sure I'm in line with the vision that has been put before me. Because obviously, I know everyone here and everyone's a strong leader. So we all have thoughts. We all have even probably methods and things that we think, I think we should do it this way. I mean, that's just natural. I'd be shocked if this group doesn't have many ways that we think things should be.
So you were in the meeting yesterday, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so, I mean, Connor's not as strong-willed as everybody else, it allows me to continue to go, okay, I'm even being prayerful and remembering that I'm not a yes man, but God has put me here to support and serve the vision of what God is doing in this place. And sometimes I agree with the vision, but I may not agree with the direction we're doing for this one part of it. Right. But it continually allows me to come back to that. Keeps me humble, keeps me listening to God, also submitting myself to someone that I trust that sees things differently than I do. And I know that's bigger than just vision, but it's coming back to that. Yeah. So
it's like the goal is always more important than, I've heard people at Church of the Highlands, the goal is more important than your role. And so it's like any thought that I have or any feeling I have or anything is submitted to what the leader wants. Yeah. And it is very humbling, and it's good to know that that I can always come back to that vision. Because sometimes, like in ministry, it's like, I know what we're doing, but what are we doing? Yeah. And there's this quote I have up on my board in my office, but I think Pastor David said it in a staff meeting. By building people, we're building leaders, and by building leaders, we're building the church. And I just keep reminding myself of that, and it just brings clarity to everything that I do.
Speaking as a leader, and you guys are definitely great leaders as well, but speaking as your leader, what vision does for me, I don't really, we don't have titles here, and we try not to focus too much on a hierarchy. It's more, what vision does for me is it helps me to work with you. And it doesn't have this feeling of you're working for me, but you're working for the vision. Yeah. And I'm also working for the vision. So we're working with each other to accomplish the vision. And what happens is then it allows us the opportunity to have those hash out moments of, but that I really think there's a better way to do it. Well, what if we did this? What if we did that? But if you don't have a direction, then you can't even have a discussion about how we're going to get there. Yes. Right. If you don't know that this is where we're going, you can't even discuss about how you're going there. Yeah. And the how is so important. Yeah. It's not as important as the why, but the how can't be done without the why. That's right. Yeah. And so I'm not trying to be some kind of there is a boss and all that. I know that. But at the same time, look, we're not about that here. What we're about is, and I will say I do appreciate the sentimentality and the mentality of I'm here to serve. I'm here to, do what's needed. And sometimes that means I have to humble myself. But what I want to say from my perspective is, so do I. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what a vision does is it helps me go, I'm not really submitting myself to that, and I need to. Mm-hmm. And in those discussions, that helps me. I'm telling you, our discussion yesterday, we had a great discussion about some methods of ways, choices, and decisions. And we like to stay really open-minded about things. And because we want to come to the best decisions, not just a decision.
Right.
Yeah.
And all of us are leaders and we all have opinions, but
Yeah.
Different opinions.
different opinions. But the truth is they're good. They're good. And not only did I hear from all of you, but everyone in the circle. And so it's like, you can have those moments in the safety of vision.
Right.
Because everybody knows there's a certain place we're trying to go, but how we get there is literally we're gonna work that out. And so, as much as that is for you, it's also for me. So I just wanted to make that clear, that because I'm gonna say why, and because really we're not coming from my perspective today, but I want to say why I want to make that clear, because there's far too many leaders out there nowadays, especially, I hate to say it, in the church, that they've made their leadership about them and their personality. And we've gone too far with this honor the leader and respect the leader and do everything the leader says. And unfortunately, there have been some that have created this environment where the people who are leading alongside them or following them in leadership have become servants to them, not to the vision, not to the cause, but to them personally. And I know that sounds weird and strange, but it's happening a lot. And it needs to stop because it's manipulative. It's not biblical. It's not the way that we should do things. Should there be honor? Well, of course there should be honor. In every capacity, we should honor authority. But should there be manipulation of that honor? Never. Because that was never the heart of God. I can't see the person, Jesus, who is the founder of our organization in the overall, that would put a towel on his shoulder and carry a basin to the feet of his dirty disciples and serve them by washing their feet. I can't see that guy manipulating the honor.
Yeah, if
he was
anybody
given.
had the power to manipulate, it would be God.
Yeah.
And he still doesn't manipulate.
Right.
We have a free will to choose.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
That's right.
It's great. So what have been the benefits of vision? We've already talked a little bit about it, but what have been the benefits? Try to be as specific as possible from your perspective. What are the real life benefits of vision for you doing your role, accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish?
Clear direction.
Yeah, clarity is so important.
Yeah.
Clear. I mean,
Yeah.
give me direction.
Yeah.
And I think it just helps. It's what we need. Yeah.
So you said it a while ago, and I think it's true. Isn't it a fact that if you have leaders on your team and you're not clear about your vision, they'll create their
They'll
own
create
vision.
their own
Right.
trail.
Well,
Yeah.
and
Because
rightly
someone's got to do it.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm coaching some people right now that is the case in a certain organization, and the leader just doesn't see it, that he's it's muddy.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
And it's just not clear. And so he goes through this really frustration with his team and he thinks it's them. Why can't they just do? And why won't they come around? And why is there not more buy-in? Because they don't know what to buy into.
Yeah.
So what are the benefits?
I mean, and even like Scotty was saying earlier, personally, like it just helps me to dream more in my own personal life. Like when I see you come into a staff meeting and you're like, hey, this is something God put on my heart. We're going to go for it. We're going to do this, 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 and this. Let's talk about it. Let's get ideas together. When I have an idea in my own life,
Right.
I'm like, dang, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to brainstorm. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it just empowers me.
It enhances your own life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It broadens my capacity. It helps me to see the possibilities instead of the impossibilities of things. Just all this
Good.
helps me skim the horizon for the opportunity instead of looking at what could go wrong. I mean, and in some cases, it's probably not always a good thing, because when I get an idea, it's just like, we're going to go there. But I'm so thankful for that because, I mean, it just enhances.
And as a leader, I want you to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I may
of
have to
course.
say, hey, hold on now. But the truth is, I would always rather be going,
Rein 'em in.
hold
Yeah.
up, than I would be, are you going to
Yeah,
even
like-
catch fire? I mean, are you
Right.
going to do anything?
Right.
And the truth is, do you find in your everyday workings that there are times that you just get your head down and you're just working hard? You said something there that made me think of this. You get your eyes up on the horizon. Vision draws you up. And I think
Yeah.
Do you find that it breaks you free from that monotony of
like I do video editing. It's like one of the most monotonous things in the world. But when I look at the impact totally that it makes, like we're doing something this weekend that's going to be so impacting during service.
Right.
And it's a video that somebody from our church put together, and I'm going to tie it all together. But I just look at how it impacts everything. Like, hey, that might bring a family in and they might accept Christ. You know, all the different things.
Yeah.
man, it's
because of vision.
Right. Okay. So this is a great example, I think, because it's very practical work. A video is very vision driven anyway.
Yeah.
So you have to have a vision of where this is going before you try to create it. You can have all these pieces, but if you don't know where it's going, there's no way to create it.
Yeah.
So you have to have vision for it to begin with. But what you just said there is like, you know, putting that video together can be monotonous. But when you think about someone's life could be changed. So what is our vision? Nope. To know God, leading people to know God, find freedom, discover purpose, make a difference. That work that I'm doing, well, what ties it in, what it motivates me. You know, a lot of times people don't understand. It's always good to get paid more. Everybody likes more pay. Everybody likes more benefits. Everybody likes all that. But that's not what really motivates people. To a very small degree, that does motivate people. I mean, if I think you're going to pay me more, I could work harder. But the truth is, besides that, what motivates us is an internal drive of why we're doing what we're doing. Because I'm going to tell you, there's no meaning in any work, even ministry work. There's no meaning in it if you can't connect the why to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think you know, you're talking about money. I think you're right on. Money's not necessarily the greatest motivation. Money is a great appreciation. You're like, oh, thank you for appreciating what I'm doing, but the motivator is more than that. And you know, I was thinking of like when you were talking about when we talked about how that gives us clarity, gives us even like causes us to dream bigger. But I was also thinking vision is transferable. A clear vision is very transferable, so it's clear. And I was thinking of the game that we've seen where you have people in a line, and then someone says something to the first person,
telephone,
and then they whisper, and then they whisper to the next person, and then by the end of it, it's all messed up. And we know if vision is just a little muddy, and it's not real clear to the people, then we know by the end it could be very
distorted
and distorted. So like I do believe that it's a good clear vision also benefits us, because then very easy to transfer that to our teams. So then it works its way all the way down.
Yeah. It is very easy because you can find yourself, if vision's not clear and if it's frustrating because you never can figure out what's really happening. And even, you know, I know a lot of guys that have a lot of vision. They're very visionary, but they keep moving the goalposts.
Yeah.
And you never can figure out, where are we kicking the ball? And so it's like, that's a very hard place to be. Yeah. So what are the struggles? You know, vision has a lot of benefits, but what are the struggles with vision? And not just the one I just said, but what are the struggles with it? There can be some real struggles. What are they?
I'm one of those people that, like, I have vision, but it is hard for me to articulate it. Like, a lot of times it's just in my head and I see it, but as far as getting it out to the people, the way putting language to it is really just naturally, it's not me. It's very hard for me. So I have to work at that to get it out on paper and read it. And then I even like, sometimes I find myself telling, because Sydney's very literal. And so if I'm talking to Sydney, she's like, what? And I'm like looking at it. I'm like, yeah, you're right. That doesn't make sense. So I have to go back and like, just be very thorough on making sure because in my mind, it's like so crystal clear, but to other people, is it?
Right.
Probably not, because people perceive things differently, and you can't expect that they see it the way that you do.
That's why the reiteration of vision is so important,
right?
Because and discussion of the vision is so important, because honestly, just like you said, people will interpret things from their perspective.
Right.
So you might be saying one thing, but they're hearing something totally different. Especially, let's talk about one of the struggles, especially if you do not line up with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like if you're not living that vision out, and so the model they're seeing is somehow you've put yourself above the vision.
Do what I say,
not what I do.
Yeah.
That confuses people no end, and they start making up their own interpretation.
That's no bueno.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that? I mean, have you ever been in an organization where it was that way, or where the goalposts kept moving, or where, it just wasn't clear? Like, we have no clue.
To me, it's the biggest way to demotivate everybody on your team, especially if you have really high-level leaders on your team, and you're like trying to implement something, but you never do that thing. It's a good way for them to just leave your team. That's something that, like, me and Taylor talk about that, because when we started leading, even here at Summit, I mean, I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
I was 19.
Yeah.
And like leading 43-year-olds and like just older people. And I'm like, how in the world am I
You
going to
didn't
do
have
this?
facial hair.
I didn't have facial hair, little stubble. No, but it was crazy.
He's had facial hair since he was 4.
He's that 13-year-old like,
But me and Taylor look back and I'm like, there's so many things I would change about what we did. And I think we held up to a lot of what we did, but we just didn't know what to do. Yeah. And I'm so thankful for hindsight. And but back to that, like I love what John Maxwell says about it's really easy to complicate vision. It's really hard to simplify it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like what I love about our vision this year, it's spread the joy. It's so simple.
Yeah.
And everybody has their own interpretation of that. But I just love how we reiterate, this isn't just like being happy. This is Christ-like joy that never fades and never goes away. And so,
and you know what that is? When we do a theme vision for a year, what it is it is a way to creatively point back to the anchor, the real vision that we have. And so this is where we're going, but the way to creatively reiterate that this year is to say, spread the joy. Yeah. Well, how easy is that if we can get people to understand, like we have with our pre-vision meeting, and now we're going to go into, our Vision Sunday.
And that can apply to business. Like I know this is leadership, so businesses, anything you're wanting to do, and you have employees, having something simple.
Right. And because vision leaks, which is one of the struggles you have with vision, is people forget. You get to work and I mean your work becomes about your work. And you forget why you're doing that work and the bigger picture of why you're doing that work, and you get honed in on your department or your area. So being creative about finding different ways to say the same thing, because let's just be honest, and let me just say something else I've learned over time. And I don't know how this affects you, but from a leader's, from a vision caster's perspective, it's this. Just about the time you are sick to death of hearing yourself talk about the vision, that's about the time that people are actually hearing it. And it is, as a leader, it is hard to not go, I feel like I'm personally in a rut. I'm saying this over and over again. And then people go,
oh,
yeah,
we do that. Is this? Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I get. And you just have to be disciplined and consistent. What do you find when a vision is cast and you even know the direction? What are the struggles that come out of that as leaders that are also casting that vision? That's one thing that as a leader I've had to learn is I'm not the only vision caster. That everybody who's leading on my team also needs to be effective at casting vision to their departments, to their areas, to their relationships. And it doesn't matter if it's ministry, business, or what. John Maxwell talks about getting your vision all the way down to the lowest levels of your organization. That very entry level point, they should be able, because that's where problems arise. Yeah. Problems arise at the lowest level of your organization. Well, if you get the vision all the way down there, what happens? Yeah. They deal with it. It never gets to you unless it's humongous. Right? So that becomes the culture. So what are you, I know that sounds like we may just be reiterating, but just think thoroughly of what are some struggles, in that process of just vision.
I wanted to say something real quick about just what we were talking about you talking about places where maybe they keep moving the goalposts.
Yeah,
what is the win? And it made me think about what both of you touched on about taking the time to define vision and how it's work. I mean, it's easy. Was it Winston Churchill talked about how it's easy to talk for 40 minutes, but to get something down to like 5 to 8 minutes, it's powerful.
Much harder. Yeah.
And I just truly think that a lot of leaders don't put in the legwork to clearly define vision, and even lining that up with things that matter most, which, we've read First Things First, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and being about your true north, what is really, really, and getting that settled, refining it, going back through it, and getting it ready. That's something that then you won't be swayed every time that you're like, it's not just going the way I want. Well, you're not just looking at results, you're looking at the overall vision. Right. And so I'm thankful that we have clarity here, and I would just encourage every leader, whatever organization, whatever they're starting, to put in that time to make something that's deep rooted in their values and that will stand the test of time. Not that it can't be tweaked or changed, but it still comes back to the same core thing over and over, because then it helps your team really give great clarity to that and know what the win is. Right. And so that's important to me. Like that is frustrating when we're like, it's changing every, methods can change, we know, but that vision needs to stay the same.
Scotty, I think we live in a time that things move so fast that I think the frustration for leaders is that they implement something and they don't give it time to actually work. There's this book talking about the I can't remember the title or the author, which is bad, but it talks about the downward spiral of change. And when you don't let change have its full life, then you change again, and then you change again, and you want it to work right now, and if it's not working, we're going to do something else, and if it's not working, we're going to do something else. And what you don't realize is you're just going down, down, down in different ways. Like the morale of your team, the frustration goes up, the morale goes down. And I think because things change so fast, we feel like we have to do that. Do you feel like that a lot of vision casting leaders assume that everybody understands what they understand?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I feel like probably everybody here thinks that. I've myself, working with people, especially, maybe people that are newer to ministry, or maybe they're new to the team. I remember coming on to teams, and I came on to a church and like that it was well established, had a strong culture, and I'd go into the meeting, and I was one of the higher leaders there. Yeah. So I would sit in these meetings, they'd be spitting out stuff, talking about naming these things they did and all these things. It was like they were speaking a whole nother language. Right. And I'm like, I don't even know what is this and what is this that you're saying? I don't understand what you're saying. And they just really forget or had assumed that I would just pick up on that. Right. Yeah. And I think it's easy for us too to bring people on our team. And we know, business, church, we're constantly bringing in volunteers or we're hiring people. And we forget how long it took us to catch vision, how long it took us to know the ins and outs of our organizations. Yeah. Right. And so really people can feel, our heart would never be to exclude them. Right. But it would almost be like if we came in here and Connor was just started speaking Spanish, you and Connor started speaking Spanish to one another. Yeah. And just thinking, and we were new to the team, you're like, well, I know they understand Spanish. And we're like, we don't know that. Duh. What's going on? And that's how I feel like it. Yeah. Right, I don't think we do it with ill intent. Yeah. But we just forget how long it takes vision to build, culture to be created, and when people come on passing that along.
So Danny, do you feel like that leaders sometimes are very excited, enthusiastic about vision in its inception, but do you feel like that sometimes they don't realize the implementation or the need of implementation in situation?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I am one of those. I have to work at it because I'm one of those people that just thinks that if I get it, then everybody gets it. And if I'm doing the things that I'm doing, then everybody's going to see that and then also do it and know the why behind it. Good. And I think one of the things that I love that you have us do is anything that we do, we ask, why are you doing it? And if it doesn't line up with the vision, then it's just extra and it's unnecessary, and we cut it right there. So
because we're not putting any resources, human or otherwise, behind something we don't know why.
That's something that's reiterated all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? A lot of times we just get so excited and we get those pet vision or pet projects that we have, and we don't want anything to ever happen to them, but they've long since been a loss. And not the overall vision, but like little methods of trying to accomplish that vision. And people don't even know why we're doing that anymore.
Right.
And it doesn't make any sense to have resources behind that.
Something that I've found when we talk about problems that vision brings is that if you have leaders on your team that are very driven, and you don't I've gotten a little better at this. I'm not great at it, but just communicating to them, like, hey, in staff meeting this week, you don't tell them every detail, but like, hey man, this is where we're going, and this is something you can be praying about. That really keeps morale up, keeps people engaged. If you don't stay in touch with your team, and they're not hearing from you a lot, it really demotivates them. The inspiration goes down, and you look up and you're like, man, I haven't heard from this person in a while, when in all actuality, you should have been reaching out to them long before that ever happened. And so that's just staying in relationship with people, because we can't just say spread the joy one time and everybody be, woohoo, for the whole year. You have to hey, this is how we're spreading the joy. This is a way you can partner with us to spread the joy.
Right.
It's
in your face all the time. Like we literally have billboards in town that say spread the joy. So that it's reinforced everywhere people go.
Right.
One thing that we learned about the process of vision, even in our evaluations, that what we do here, we're not great at this and we need to get better at it, but we learned from Patrick Lencioni that when we evaluate anybody on team, we ask 2 questions. What did you accomplish last quarter? What do you want to accomplish this next quarter? And give me firm, practical examples of how what you do ties into our vision.
That's awesome.
And just because it keeps you just going back. Man, every one of us have issues of just, I got to get the work done. And you can so easily lose why you're doing it. I mean, and why do you not want people to lose that why? What are the reasons that you don't want people to lose that why?
I mean, that's a good way for drama and ego to just shoot up through the roof. I mean,
that's
just
interesting.
Because people, when it's centered back to why we're doing this, it really cuts out, like, even your mind to go to a place of, this is what I want. We haven't been doing this. Why haven't we been doing this? I wanted this to happen a long time. All that bull crap goes out the door.
Right.
And it's always back to, hey, we're doing this for other people.
We're not,
it's not about me.
Yeah, we're not building this around a personality.
Yeah.
And you know what? A lot of times.
And any level leader on the team can have that feeling. It's not just the senior. It's,
absolutely.
It's the guy that just came on the team and maybe he's really talented, but, just whatever the situation may be.
Managers have a real struggle with this because they're all about the details, all about getting the job done, all about working the resources, human and otherwise, to get everything, and they can be very pump, and it becomes about being afraid of me, making sure what I want is done because they're trying. But the truth is, look, that's not going to accomplish anything. I don't know anybody that's really been effective in an organization where they were scared of the person.
It reminds me of Michael Scott. I want them to fear me and love me.
Yes, exactly. Which is sadly the passive aggressive way that a lot of people lead.
So true.
Like I've had bosses and leaders in my life where, look, I didn't know where to hug them or think they were going to hit me. That's drastic saying that, but the truth is, it's like you feel like that kid whose dad smacks him around sometimes in an emotional way, because it's not about the vision. It's not about where we're going. It becomes somehow about the personality. Now, here's the problem with that as a leader. If it becomes about our personality, then the whole thing, the legacy of it, the future of it, the present of it, all is absolutely contingent upon the person it's built around.
Everything dies on that hill.
So so if that person dies or leaves or has some major failure, it's over. And the whole organization, and this is not just ministry, this is business, it's ministry, it's entrepreneurial efforts. The whole thing can just be turned upside down and take forever to recover, or even at all recover.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have a great culture that's not centered around a personality, but a vision and values, then something can happen to that leader that may have been the driving force behind the organization. Someone can fit right into that role because it's not about their personality. It's about vision and values. It doesn't mean you're not going to take a pop on someone that's really important to the vision and values.
Yeah.
But the truth is, anybody's replaceable.
Man, I love that.
And if you build around someone's personality, what you're in essence saying is that one person is not replaceable. And it's just not true. And that is a problem when we deal with vision, is people kind of modifying the vision to be coming from, and because it is coming from you, but it really isn't coming from you. I mean, in our situation with spiritual things, we believe God deposits vision into us. But if you really think about it, anybody who has any kind of symbiotic relationship with the people on their team, any vision that's coming out of them is literally a conglomeration of the thoughts, ideas, values, and vision of everybody on the team.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand that, you have a problem.
I mean, that's when it's most fun.
Yes.
Like when it's just.
Shouldn't it be fun?
Yeah, I remember when our creative team, we kind of built up and had some people like new fresh blood come on the team, all of these things.
Fresh blood. Fresh blood.
Fresh people in the lineup. But everybody brings their own thoughts, and we open that up.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is how I grew up in church, and we don't go with every idea, but it all comes into a melting pot, and it makes it so much more fun. And I love that you teach us, make everything you do to where if you weren't there, somebody could step in and do that.
Yeah.
And in large part, in different parts of some of the teams that I lead, I feel like if I miss 2 or 3 Sundays, somebody's going to lead worship. It's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about it. And I love that fact.
Right.
And that's when it's most fun.
Yeah.
To me.
Well, and honestly, isn't that the safety of vision?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, don't you think, Scotty, that it's a safe place where you can say, man, what if we did this and what if we did that? Because you all know that the backdrop is the vision that the organization has. So you're not afraid to go share your ideas or thoughts because you have, like you said earlier, the parameters.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I agree 100%. I think that I was thinking, though, I was trying to think of as you're talking about that, and I know it's a little different in church setting because we do believe that the way that it's set up is eldership and pastoralship and how that God speaks to us all, but speaks vision for the place to the pastor.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and you may speak to this, but I was just thinking of like, it is not that they're getting their way.
Yeah.
So we should be able to challenge you. You welcome us to be able to challenge you and say, well, what about this or what about that?
Right.
But obviously, I believe that there are things, it does us justice as a team, because I know we're talking about us carrying vision.
Right.
To what I refer to is reading between the lines of your leader.
Yeah.
There are things that in line with the vision that God is speaking to you that you're very passionate about, and there's seasons where you're more passionate about things and other things, and not that you're perfect, that you couldn't get off.
Yeah.
But that as God is speaking to these things that are key for the season, and it still lines up with the vision, I would encourage people in church settings, but even in business settings, to not forget the vision, but make sure we're wise and we're trying to read between the lines of our leaders of what God is speaking in the moment and what they're passionate about.
Yeah.
And we would be, I just think it's wisdom to take those things and make sure that we too are allowing them to settle in our heart and not just being like, well, we're doing this in this season and doing that. And if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Like we should catch a hold. Shouldn't always be that you're having to tell us the vision.
Right.
We should take initiative to catch the vision.
Right.
In your teachings, and conversations we have on the side without you having to. Now, this isn't for everybody, not for all volunteers in the church, but for staff and people that are close to you. There should be a catching of the vision. And I think some of that comes from, honestly, from proximity. And having our hearts open and say, God, what are you speaking to Pastor David right now? What are you speaking to wherever you're at? And grabbing a hold of those things, maybe even before you have to open your mouth. So I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. The Bible says that understanding is a deep well, and the wise have to draw it out. And what that means is, a leader, like you were saying earlier, doesn't always know exactly how to articulate what is going on in their head or what they feel like, and sometimes it takes that kind of perception of the leaders around them asking questions. All right, so what do you mean by that? So when you say this, are you saying what, and a lot of times I think vision is articulated as a result of leaders around a visionary leader drawing that vision out of them.
360 Leader, great book.
Exactly. Because I'm going to tell you, sometimes I don't always fully understand exactly what it's going to look like. I have a vision that we're going to affect the Panhandle with campuses, but I've seen that done in 50 different ways. And I have some very specific parameters that I want it to be, but I don't know how it's going to flesh out everything. And maybe there's something new that's burgeoning in us, coming out of us, that is related to our vision, but hasn't been articulated yet. Well, that's not going to really come out of a deep place in your leader unless you pull it out. And so that the thinking on that takes us to, just this idea of embracing vision and acknowledging a submissive attitude towards vision. I think, listen, the older I get, the more completely married I am to the idea of humility and submission. And I really believe that God gives everyone a vision for their life. And, there's general purpose that God has for us, that every Christian, every believer, and then there's specific purpose that he has for us. And it's not just one purpose. It's like there's a lot of people who think there's one mate out there for you and it's only one. And, I always say, well, what happens if your one mate gets hit by the bus and then you got nobody? You're like a widow or a widower before you even got married. And that's how the purpose of God is too. We get this weird, mysterious, there's one thing. Man, God wants you to do a whole ton of things. And so, and they come out over seasons.
I mean, that's how you figure out kind of the one thing, if you will.
By
doing a lot of different things.
Nobody knows. And God's not mad at you in any of those things. No, you missed the perfect role that I had for you.
Right, like clearly I can play instruments, but I don't think me playing instruments and singing is my only purpose.
It's a good one, though.
Yeah, it is a good one.
Landed my wife.
Hey, God used it in a mighty way.
Okay, so let's take that little concept into more of a business realm, for CEOs or leaders of their own company, like, smaller businesses or even large businesses. What do you see as happening, or you've experienced? Maybe you've been around or worked for leaders that have small vision. What kind of troubles does this create? How does it make you feel? What do you do? How do you know? What struggles come along with that when you have a leader that just the vision is small?
One thing that my mind kind of goes to is back to knowing the why. Like, if you don't have the vision, you don't have the why. And I think of, like, for example, if we went to Africa, we've been to Africa a few times, and if we went there, and a lot of times we're building structures or laying foundations or something, if I don't know that why, and you tell me to go make bricks out of dirt and rocks and cement,
right,
I'm going to get a bad attitude. I'm going to be grumpy. I'm not going to do it with all my heart, because I have no idea that I'm laying the foundation for kids to come in so that they can be nourished, so that they can have a family, so that they can have an education. And know Christ.
Talking about an organization that knows how to cast vision.
Yes.
With Toto, man. And it culminates when we build an actual building. The only thing I can see, I have this one picture. I don't remember who it was, but I have this one picture. At the end of every building you build there, you come and you do worship with the workers that you worked with all week and your team, and you do a little worship, and then you pray over that building.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
And I've got a picture of, I don't even remember who it was, but knelt down, and their hands are they had to be kneeling because their hands are low to the ground, but they're reaching out and touching the wall. And just praying over the kids that are probably in the streets that are going to end up being in that house, or the mom, the widow that's going to be able to parent those children in that home and make sure they get an education and get fed and get medical care and all that. Okay, so now I'll build. What else can we build?
Right.
It's exactly
like, I'll
right.
lay the foundation. I'll build the roof. I'll do anything.
Yeah.
If you know.
Yeah, but if you have a small vision. If you have a small vision that
your workers are going to get
it's got to mean something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to, I can't just be doing something that, if you're a real leader in your heart and you're working for another leader and they just don't seem to be going anywhere, it's just really hard to get motivated behind it. I mean, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take the other position. Have you ever been, been around a leader that's got huge vision that's way, way, way beyond them?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen those leaders. I've never personally worked for one.
Is there a problem with that?
I think there is. They're out of touch with reality in a lot of cases, because some of them talk like they're flying to the moon, but they haven't flown a paper airplane yet.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that's how I feel about people. And it's just, I mean, Paul Scanlon talks about, it's just like self-awareness.
Yeah.
And when you're not self-aware about where you are,
yeah.
I mean, you don't even have a platform to launch off of.
Yeah, if you're not gonna make a CD, you're not gonna get signed and make a CD next year if you still can't play a piano.
Right.
I'm gonna have a piano album.
Yeah,
I've got a piano.
This is funny. So on a funny note, Taylor, we were watching an episode of The Bachelor, like back in the early 2000s.
You were.
And Taylor was watching one, and I saw this guy that couldn't sing. And he was singing to this girl, and he was not self-aware. Yeah. And he was never going to land his quote-unquote vision of getting with this girl.
Yeah.
I mean, he sang to her 3 times, and he never got the hint that she did not like it. And I was just busting out laughing, this poor guy. And he evidently didn't get a rose, if you're wondering. But it was just so funny. He wasn't self-aware. Yeah. Nobody told him that it's like Simon Cowell.
Yeah.
Like coming and leveling the field for you. Like, hey, you're not going to make it. You're not getting the
And you know what? Listen, the consequences of life and the consequences of that kind of lack of self-awareness are way tougher than Simon Cowell.
Oh, I'm thankful for the Simon Cowell in my life.
Right. And
you're going to get broke.
Yeah, because if you don't have some Simon Cowells, life will knock you to your knees. And let me just say about that, we really need to be aware. And I think that's how vision happens. I think vision happens by you cast vision and then you accomplish vision, and then you go, man, we can do more. And your vision enlarges. And your vision may not be much different than it ever was. It just may be a bigger version of what it was. And so it's really amazing how God uses your gifts, your talents, your personality, your abilities to kind of craft the direction your life should go. But that just continues to increase as you do well with what you have. But I see so many, especially young guys, and there's nothing against young guys. I work around a lot of young guys. I mean, but the truth is, I see a lot of young guys that, and I did this when I was young. Did you know that there are some things that I had vision for that I could never have accomplished when I first started that I'm just now accomplishing?
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. And, I'm talking about when I was early 22, 23, and I'm 52 now, and I'm just now doing it.
Amazing.
30 years.
Yeah. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with having that vision, but I think we live in a culture that's so full of salesmanship in the wrong way, not the right way, that we sell ourselves,
self-promotion,
and we can't get anybody to get around or buy in because everybody's looking at us because they're very aware of us.
Yeah.
We're just completely unaware of us. And so then I got this huge vision and we're going to we're going to go to Mars.
Yeah.
You're not Tesla, bro.
Yeah.
You
You're
don't,
not Elon Musk.
You don't, I mean, Elon Musk. You
Tesla,
don't,
that's his company.
you don't even know how to build a rocket.
Yeah.
You ain't going to know Mars. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, but that's what it's like. I'm going to be this. I'm going to do that. Maybe.
It's okay to dream big.
Yes.
Right.
They're okay. So good word.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a dream and a vision?
And that's why it's good to have leaders who are older than you in your life.
Oh, come on.
Because like when I have a dream, I usually submit it to you most of the time.
Yep.
And you're like, hey man, have you asked these questions? Da 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 da. And I've been around you so long. A lot of times those questions get answered up front because I'm very hard on myself. So it's like bam, 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 run myself through the strainer.
Right.
But it's only because I've asked tough questions.
Right.
It had tough responses, and I'm like, man, I'm not even going to take that to my leader until I get these questions worked out.
Yeah.
And then I'll let them speak to it.
You know, I was thinking of when you were talking about being now 50.
Yeah.
And, which you're my elder, just by a few years though. So I can come to you.
You're not quite 50 yet.
Not quite 50 yet, but I'm close enough. I get lumped in there. So.
I get lumped in.
But I was thinking about this is honestly for business people, but even church people, and he's unpolished.
Yeah.
But Steve Harvey's a great follow on Twitter because he gives God a lot of credit, but he talks about just the dreams that he had.
Yeah.
And how he didn't lay those down. And it's funny. He said, he said, I messed up so much in my 20s. It took my 30s to correct it, but then my 40s I made traction. He said, now I'm 50 and I'm balling. I think of that. But
that is a great thought.
Oh yeah,
actually.
it takes so long.
You don't give up on your dreams, but what's the difference between a dream and a vision? I mean, we use all the biblical examples, but David was like 17 when he killed Goliath. Wasn't in it. He was in his late 30s when he became king.
Right.
Joseph had the dream at 17, but didn't. It took him like 27 years to set in the palace and lead Egypt. I mean, Moses started. He started. It was raised up in leadership for 40 years in Potiphar's house. I mean, in Pharaoh's house.
Yeah.
Then he was on the backside of a desert for 40 years.
Yeah.
He was 80 years in before he started actually really leading. And all that process of time, he was being groomed and taught and developed for his potential and for his, for that all to rise to the surface so he could do what his true, genuine purpose was.
Right.
Now, patience have its
Yeah,
perfect.
yes.
Yeah.
And if you think that's not true, then ask yourself what Moses' name means. It means to be drawn out. He was meant and intended to be a deliverer from his birth.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't until he was 80 till he actually delivered anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lord, I hope I get there before 80.
And he messed up his life by trying to deliver someone
good.
prematurely.
Yeah.
He wasn't ready to do what he did.
Yeah.
So, everybody looks at that. He murdered somebody. No, it's the nuance of, no, he was trying to deliver someone from oppression. And he
was doing something that was in him.
Yes.
But it wasn't the time.
Yes,
wasn't ready yet.
Missing the time because he was because he was dreaming of that. His people being delivered, it blew him out, man.
Yeah.
And so it takes time, and it takes us understanding the difference between vision and dreaming. Dreaming is no limits. Vision has to do with self-awareness. And dreaming is the destination, but vision is where you're going. Like, where am I going to get to the destination? And so I can't just say, I've got these exciting dreams. Listen, I heard somebody say this the other day. Until you actually put feet to your dream, it's nothing more than a wish. And we can wish all day long that we accomplish that or we accomplish that. But until you implement something, until you actually act on it, until you actually go take that class, or you actually read that book, or you actually build that team, or you actually try something new, forget about it. It's nothing. You just wish it. There's no genie that's going to come out of a bottle and you're going to ask them for that to happen, and it's going to happen. It's not going to happen.
All the resources today, too. I mean, people are like acting like there's nowhere to turn to.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, you can learn anything, almost anything on YouTube
Right.
now.
You can get a veritable college education on YouTube. That's not a joke. Like, it may not be accredited, but if you want to learn something now, you can learn it.
Is it Outliers? It talks about Outliers that the book talks about. you can become an expert in anything if you put 10,000 hours in.
I don't know if that's a book, but I've heard that.
Yes.
Maxwell says 5 years. If you do something consistently for 5 years, you'll become an expert.
Wow.
There's probably a podcast on it. There's probably YouTube.
You know there is.
Absolutely.
A few.
We have every resource at our fingertips. There's no excuse to be caught in that place of wishing and dreaming and not put vision to it and implement it. So let's move on. We got all excited about that. We need to close out here pretty quick.
What a great segment.
Yeah.
This segment was brought to you by.
So I want to ask one more question here, and then we're going to do our provocative point. Okay, we've already really talked about that. How do you, I'll ask this, and this will be the last, because this really gives a perspective of someone serving vision. How do you develop vision within the context of greater vision without creating division?
That's a lot of ends.
That is.
I would say, this is like, I feel like this is maybe a churchy term, but like submission.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, submission. And I don't, it's churchy, but it shouldn't be. I think
Right.
That's life.
Yeah, that's life. And I think properly submitting yourself to the leader in your life, to the pastor, to the CEO, or your direct oversight, and saying, "Hey, this is stirring in me. I want it to be in line," and just talking to them, having a relationship with them. And I would tell people, I've talked to people before, and they've asked, well, what do you do when that person is maybe it could be an insecure leader? They don't support you. They're very they become jealous very easily, threatened. And I'm just honest with people. I'm like, well, then go find another place.
Yeah.
Where someone can support you. Well, I don't know if I can find another place. Well, then do with what
Submit.
you have. It's your choice.
Yeah.
But like if they're really that bad and that's really true, and you've sought counsel and talked to other people that have wisdom, then go. And if in our world,
Okay, time out. Let me say one thing to what you just said, because it needs to be said. If you're a person who thinks your oversight is threatened by you, yet you don't have the guts to leave and go somewhere else, they're absolutely not threatened by you.
That's
It
great.
depends on right. It's case sensitive, depending upon the person.
And that's
Like
why
you're
you
saying.
seek counsel.
Right,
That's why
exactly.
you don't just
Exactly.
Because somebody can say, "Man, my leader's insecure," but in all actuality, that person is just projecting that they are insecure.
Absolutely. And
they're-
counsel would say, "Listen, here's what you got. Some of these things you need to get.
Here's the deal: the leader could be insecure, and they could even be threatened by you. But the truth is, the problem isn't with your leader if that's the way you're responding to that situation.
Yeah, that would be even a move would be sought after really thinking through,
Right.
and giving, and not knee jerk. Because I was thinking, as Connor was talking earlier, with accepting vision or evaluating vision or looking, the two things which we know biblically, fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Two of those things I think are so important are patience and self-control.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because
So
patience and
little.
self-control allow you to say, hold on,
Yep.
let's see where this thing goes. So we're not rash. And then also self-control allows us to keep our mouth shut long enough to evaluate before we start popping off about how bad our leader is, and then have to come
Backtrack.
backtrack.
Cross the line that you can't go back across.
exactly,
Let me just say too that it's so shocking to me that people will make drastic decisions without talking to anybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shocking. Like maybe it's because I've always had people in my life that I trust and that I'm pretty open with, and I know they have wisdom.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because there's people out there, a lot of people out there who just don't have that. They've never cultivated it. But it is shocking to me how many. It's not that you're going to someone to get permission to make a decision. It's you want the benefit of their experience and the benefit of their wisdom and the benefit of their, all of it.
They're probably going to make the vision you have within their vision better than what you thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great.
Way better. I mean,
Yeah.
anytime and that's a part of submission. That's me saying, "Hey, I have a great idea, but somebody can make it better."
Yeah.
It's always, and so like bringing something to you.
If you're having thoughts like, I've got this great vision. I'm not going to tell anybody because they'll steal it.
Or this is the best idea that could ever be thought.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I
I
wish
know a lot of people that are idea people, but
wish-
never gets worked.
Right.
That's right.
I wish my leader was thought more like I do. That kind of stuff. Listen, your leaders got flaws.
Yeah.
And they could be insecure. A lot of leaders are insecure, like extremely insecure.
We're human.
Yeah.
We're all
Human.
human.
But if you're talking like that, acting like that, being like that, the problem is not with your leader. The problem is right in the center of you.
Right.
And we've got to find people in our lives that can come up to us and go, dude, I have people in my life, literally, that can come up to me and say, stop acting like an idiot. Stop it. You're being a rear end and you know it. Stop it. I literally at the end of the year, I have a few people in my life that I'll send a text to and say, listen, I need to know, what you see in me, how you feel like I'm doing. Shoot me straight. Are there some things in my life that I'm not seeing that I need to be aware about? And I literally ask these questions, and these guys they know that what I'm asking them for is the real stuff. And they know I'm doing that on purpose to hear, like, hey man, I thought, man, you stepped off on this, or you could be a little different. You could have handled that. You could be nice. Why'd you come off so strong? You really weren't right about that. Have you gone back and made that right? Have you gone back and apologized to that person for you need somebody? This is the Bible says, the Bible says iron sharpens iron, but nobody really talks about that process.
Yeah, how bad, how rough it can
You ever
be.
rubbed iron together?
Yeah.
Man, it's like,
And
It's
if
a
you want
terrible noise.
if you want to sharpen iron, you've got to rub it together. It creates friction. It creates heat.
Yeah.
It knocks
Sparks even.
Yeah, sparks. It knocks rough edges off of that blade.
Yeah.
I mean, we all talk about let's get together and sharpen our iron. Really? Okay.
You really want to?
Yeah, let's do some sharpening. Sharpening takes discipline. It takes consistency. It takes self-control and patience. And we live in a culture right now that is completely antithetical to that.
That's right.
Microwave everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
All in the microwave.
So we,
Fast food
as
society.
leaders, if we're going to go there and we're going to be able to complement vision, and we're going to be able to run with vision and operate in the context of values, we're going to have to be disciplined, consistent, self-controlled, patient, and allow God to use us. We can accomplish an overall vision and the vision that we have for our own heart if we're willing to do this little simple word, submit, not only to the leader, but to the vision.
Right.
And you know what? There's a submission that happens not only from you to a leader, but from a leader to you. Like, I'm submitting to this relationship because I want it to be empowered. I want the people on my team dreaming. I want the people on my team. Look, if people on your team aren't allowed to dream, aren't allowed to have vision, aren't allowed to implement, aren't allowed to put their fingerprints, if they're real leaders, they will find a place.
Yeah, you ain't going to keep them for very long.
Right, where they can do that.
Yeah.
Listen, I have no goals of trying to hold anybody back, and I mean that includes leaving. I don't want anybody on my team to leave. I'd love for everybody to stay every time. But if it's the better thing for them to go, you know what? They're going to find in me a cheerleader. Yes, you got that in you. Go for that. And even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when you really don't want that for you, if you're really thinking of the best of your organization, then you're thinking for the best of the people in that organization.
Right.
Period. And if you're that kind of leader, people will have no problem following the vision that you have.
It's good stuff.
Because John Maxwell says this. I know I quote him a lot, but he's a great one to quote. That's right. Here's the deal. People buy into the leader before they buy into the vision, but they stay in the organization because of the vision, not the leader.
It's good.
So we really need to operate on that. So thanks for joining me today. And I think we've really gained some perspective here. God bless. So our provocative thought today is, what do you do when you discover your leader has moral or ethical indiscretions? I think there's two ways to look at this. I think one way is when you find out, and I think there's another way, and that is when you are the victim of. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about everything from leadership manipulation to sexual harassment to financial mismanagement to misappropriation of funds to intimidation. What happens when that line is crossed? What do you do?
And it happens across every sector.
Every sector.
Yeah.
Business, government, politics, ministry, every sector, nonprofit.
Yes.
It happens all over the place. What do you do as a person, a team member, or even a team leader in an organization, and you are confronted with the fact that your leader has moral and ethical discrepancies? Go.
Yeah. I think I'm not saying this is the first thing to do, but when you said that, the first thing I thought of was like, the golden rule. Honestly, like, how would I want to be treated? If I had that go on in my life, maybe not even just how I want to be treated. What would be best for me? Right. Because I might want to be treated like, don't tell anybody.
Right.
But what would be best for me?
Right.
And then try to think that same way about that person and that leader, because I think at times it's easy to just say, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did this. And I know there's differences of what people do. Mm-hmm. Some are harming to other people.
Yep.
And that's, I think our approach is going to be different. Some they got in a situation financially and they made stupid choices because they were still wrong.
Yeah.
But we don't know what they've went through. So what would be very best for them as we go forward?
I love your compassion, Scotty, but think about it. If this is the leader, the CEO, the owner, the leader of the organization, anything they do in the context of indiscrepancy, ethically or morally, is going to affect their organization. And
I don't mean to hide anything, but best for, I should say them.
What's the best way to handle it?
Best way to handle it, for them, and the first probably for victims.
Yeah.
Then for them.
And I'm not saying that we should first go to punishment and all that either.
Right.
But it also depends on if someone has been literally victimized.
I agree.
I think that makes it a whole different issue. If it's just something within the context of their internal situation, one thing that may cost the organization something, there's a one way to handle that. But if someone has been victimized, someone has been misused, abused, manipulated, whatever. But then, we have different ways of handling it. It seems like we've had moments in our history as a nation and even the world where it was cover everything up.
Yep.
Let's act like it didn't happen. Let's
because that's the easy thing to do.
Right, exactly. And let's act like it didn't happen. Let's just move on. Mm-hmm. We don't want to not be promoted. We don't want to get singled out or blackballed because we're whatever. Mm-hmm. And because we told or we're the snitch, all that kind of stuff. But now it's gone to the whole other side of things where people are being canceled.
And because they're broadcasting it all over stuff that it doesn't have to be broadcasted.
And sometimes it's not even it's in the name of making sure everything's uncovered and open. Right. But now it's just, we'll cancel you if you disagree with us. Yeah. Right. If you think differently than us, then. And what I've noticed about the culture now in dealing with other people who have indiscretions is that I can have the same indiscretion, but if it's you, we're gonna destroy you, but we'll just keep hiding ours. Mm-hmm. So what do you do though, taking all that into consideration? What do you do as a leader in your organization? You find out your boss is embezzling.
Mm-hmm. Man, the whole thing of leadership, I'm so thankful I've heard this quote and I've learned this. The same amount of people you can help in leadership is the same amount of people you can hurt.
Mm-hmm. It's the truth.
At any given moment, at any given time. And as soon as you get into like a defensive mode where you're hiding things that you're doing that are unethical, you're already moved, like selfishness is taking you over.
Yeah.
Now you're out for you. Nobody's getting in.
Selfish ambition.
I mean, it's all about you staying above board. And if I've never been in that situation, thankfully, but if I did get in that situation, the first thing that I would do, I would think is go talk to that person. And of course, exemplify Christ-like behavior, have grace, have compassion, but let them know, if you don't do something about this, I'm not going to be a part, for one.
Right.
And you better turn yourself in,
Yeah.
because I'm not going to keep my mouth shut
Yeah.
while you're hurting the whole organization,
Yeah.
because you're now being selfish.
And you're hurting yourself too.
Right. And the ripple effect.
Yeah.
It's just like there's so many leaders that just have a wasteland of people that they've just mowed over, and it's just like bones sitting behind them.
What bothers me is in the ministry model. If we're not talking about business or entrepreneurial things, we're talking about ministry. The thing that bothers me in ministry is there is now what we could call serial indiscretion, where people are literally committing atrocities ethically and morally, and getting a little slap on the wrist, and then just continue to go.
Yeah.
And there's a right way to be restored from that.
Right.
And in the ministry aspect, God can create a beautiful testimony out of
Right.
it.
Yeah, God's not about canceling you.
Right.
But I think it goes back to, first of all, how's the organization set up?
Yeah, I agree.
Where is the accountability? And I think a lot of times when something like this happens with an individual leader, number one, either they've set their own accountability up in a way that's not really accountability, or their accountability isn't doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And if you have a bunch of sycophantic people on your accountability board or your trustees or whatever that only want to say yes to you all the time and think you're the most awesome thing ever, or they're your buddy that you play golf with, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to stand up, or when they do, it doesn't just destroy the organization, it destroys your relationship and all of that.
Like you said, they create echo chambers of just like, nothing's going to ever get challenged. We're going to be all right.
And just the creating of that scenario leaves the door wide open, because we're human, and because we do sometimes have selfish ambition, and because we are weak at times, it leaves the door open for that. But if you set up accountabilities appropriately, there is this deterrence in your heart and in your mind that says, if nothing else, even if the Holy Spirit convicting you, if you're a believer, or even your conscience getting a hold of you, even if you can blow past those, there's an external accountability that says, if I do this,
Right.
I'm going to get it. It's going to backfire on me.
I think your question, there is differences of what's happened, and also organizationally,
right?
Because if you're in a business setting, and I think you find out that person is embezzling, honestly, I think before you go to them, you would need to get counsel.
Yes,
and counsel from a friend, but also probably
legal counsel.
Yeah.
And just say, this is happening, what should I do?
Right.
Because unfortunately, not every person that embezzles is a bad person or anything, but they're at a place
that's
of
pretty
cover
bad.
up.
Yeah.
So even going to them, you don't know what could happen with you. And it's sad that it has to do that.
Yeah.
And you also don't know, when you pull that string, what it's going to unwind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'll say this, even in ministry settings, I would counsel people who are going to approach some kind of immoral or unethical thing, they should probably get legal counsel as well, because you just don't know what
you could be like some places you let go, don't have to have a reason,
covered up, right?
And you're done.
But like when a leader gets there, it's all about them and selfishness, so they're going to do whatever they can to protect.
It's survival mode.
Survival mode.
Yeah. If they've already gone as far as to do some things like that and cover up, then when you approach them, chances are their first response isn't going to be, I'm sorry, okay, I'll stop. It's going to be, how dare you lie about me, or whatever. Now, that's if someone embezzles or if someone is lying consistently or if someone's intimidating. That's one thing. But sexual misconduct,
Yeah.
or you're having it happen to you, whether male or female. What do you do? And let's just let's just take it out of the ministry. Take it out of every other. We've talked about it to death in other settings in terms of business and finance and all those kind of things, political. But it's kind of taboo. We don't want to talk about it in ministry. It happens in ministry too. Yeah. What do we do about it? And here's the problem I have, and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys to say. I don't know why this is, and it's probably some people would even see this as a little bit of a betrayal to my occupation, but we have such, and I think there should be honor for pastors because, I know firsthand all the sacrifices people who choose this life make. So there should be honor and there should be respect. Yes, and it's biblical. It should be respect. But the bottom line is, I don't know why so much of the time, especially in some of the circles that we've been a part of in the past or seen even now. And I'm talking about more non-denominational circles than denominational circles, which they get it wrong too. But people will, because they are so invested in the personality of that leader, they will just cover it or let it go with no thought. Mm-hmm. In a ministry setting, in a church setting where believers are to love and to care for and be kept, they'll cover and hide and I've seen this happen since I was a child, because people are human, There's nothing to say that a leader's not going to get sideways just because they're in ministry, right? They shouldn't. We hope they don't, but they can. And it's amazing to me how we can be so invested in someone's personality and this happens in business too, and especially in politics. Yeah. We get so invested in them that we would literally give them the benefit of the doubt, take their side, cover for them without one single thought of that victim. Mm-hmm. We want that pastor to be restored. We want them to be able to continue in ministry. We want them to have a future with no thought. Right. Of the damage that's been done emotionally and spiritually and relationally and physically to a person who's been, that's got to affect you in such a weird way. Yeah. And how you go to your next job and in a spiritual setting, how disillusioning that person who's been your hero. Yeah. Right. And somehow you're trying to justify and rationalize in your mind that this is happening to you. Am I wrong? Are they wrong? Am I the crazy one? Are they the crazy one? We hear the stories. And I just think there's a responsibility to both. But first, the correction needs to happen. So good. Because you can't say we're getting justice for a victim if you're not willing to deal with the person who is the perpetrator. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And let's just be honest, they cannot fully and truly and really be restored unless they go through that correction process. Yeah. They can say they can say that all they want to, and it's really amazing to me how people just accept that. But and almost have I've seen it where people in power will do things like that, and people go to lengths to make sure they're taken care of, but then almost have a disdain for the person who is victimized because how dare you say something? Yeah. And that happens in families even. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've seen families had abuse and the person who was abused speaks up and the family turns on that person because you spoke up. How dare you? That would never happen. Mm-hmm. And that kind of same cover up has been going on. The Bible says something very clearly. It says that he who conceals his sin will not prosper, but he who forsaketh it will be shown mercy. It's good. Anytime we start covering, anytime we start protecting, the only thing that fixes that is for the covers to be pulled off. And let me tell you how it works for a believer. And I believe this with my whole heart, and I've seen this happen many times. First, God will come to you by the Holy Spirit and his word, and he'll convict you. Hey, you're way off base here. You need to repent. You need to make it right. The Holy Spirit comes to you and really convicts you. if you continue to reject him, most of the time what'll happen is he'll send a prophetic voice. And it can be through anybody, a friend, a neighbor, a parent, another pastor. Hey, listen, the Lord's been telling me some things need to change, or I really have been noticing in you this needs to change. And if we reject that, here's what usually happens. If we reject the Holy Spirit, reject a person who would come to us in confrontation, then God just pulls the covers off.
Yep.
And it's like pulling a Band-Aid off of an open, gaping wound and just going, rip. Everyone?
Yeah. Here it is.
And why do we want to? I've seen guys that'll just go double down, triple down, quadruple down until that happens. And then it's like everything's destroyed. Why? When we have problems in us, and I say this to every leader I want, it doesn't matter spiritual or otherwise, deal with it. Go to a counselor, get help, repent of your sin, whatever the case may be. Deal with it. Don't cover it, because it's like a cancer and it'll eat you alive. So what do you do though? We already talked about the setup. If your setup is good, your legal setup is good, your accountability setup is good. And let me just say, by the way, accountability is a local thing. You can't have a bunch of people who do not see you on a regular basis be your accountability, because they don't know what's going on in your life.
And you can lie over the phone.
Right. And I'm not saying that you can't have also some people in your accountability circle that don't live close to you, but they can't be the only people in your circle.
People, local can be more privy to what's going on in your life. You can have people of integrity that are not local that you could go to in the case of wrongdoing. That could handle it
or they can be a part of making judgments or helping you understand what to do, just on the basis of here's what's happened, here's what we do. But they can't be that. They can't be that deciding voice that says you need to be corrected, you need to be restored, you need to be fixed.
Because they're going to have people locally do investigate. And I think you asking specifically for, obviously, like a little more thinking more ministry minded. There are a couple scenarios there. Obviously, one is there a trusting board or eldership, whatever term you want to use. And because it's really. Biblically, we know that if we have wrong against one another, we're supposed to go to that person.
Right.
So, but in that setting, when you can't just go to that person, because they're also not because they're this high or anything, but they do have power and authority, and things can happen. So, in my opinion, you go to the board that is if it's one that's there. Now, as a staff, hopefully we know that. Hopefully, as a staff, that's been communicated. And if that's the case, then I know, like our bylaws when we had our church, and I know these are similar. I had told all of our team, if there's ever wrongdoing or suspicion of wrongdoing, in the setting of immoral or even it could be financial, they could go to you. You were on our board. They could go to you. They could go to a few other pastors that were on our board. And then you can investigate. Well, you all have integrity. You all would do that. And then also try to help restore me. So I think that would be the first step. Honestly, after seeking your own counsel, praying, making sure because and then allowing those people to actually work that process of investigation. Also, I would have no doubt in my mind that not only would you do that, you would start looking at who the victims were. And you would start, and other guys that would start helping them come to a place of restoration as well, giving as much importance on them as us. I think if now it's a lot harder. If it's which a lot of churches are set up like this, where there are a lot of churches that don't even have a board or at all, not just and so it's the pastor. And now a lot of them have governing bodies. I think you have to reach out to someone in the governing body of that too. And that's not always easy.
No.
But you need to do the diligence.
When you're a victim of a situation, when the Bible talks about if you have wrong against each other, go deal with it. I'm certain that doesn't mean if someone in authority over you has done wrong to
I
you.
agree. Now, people could use that way, but that's not it.
Because if they're in the wrong frame of thinking and they're already being abusive to you in some way, like you said, they're not going to handle that right.
Right.
No.
So you have to do this. You have to do that second part. You go get the people who have governing authority, and you say, "Hey, come with me. I want to address this or confront this." If it's a thing where you can't, like you've been treated in such a way that you cannot, then you just need to go to them and let them deal with it.
Yeah.
But the goal in all of this is restoration, forgiveness, redemption, fixing it. That's the goal. We don't just want guys who are perpetrators to just be punished.
Right.
We want them to be corrected and restored.
Absolutely.
And we don't want people who are victimized to be further victimized by being treated poorly because they had the audacity to say, "I've been victimized." Mm-hmm. The sad part now in our culture is that there's been this overreach and this knee-jerk reaction that people who haven't even done anything are being blamed for doing things and are being dragged through the mud because now we know that people are going to pay attention.
So it's broadcast
before
there's ever any investigation.
Yeah.
It's really you're it's not you're innocent until proven guilty.
It's you're
because
guilty
of social
until
media and all these things. You're guilty until proven.
I talked to a lawyer friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about we had known somebody who had become a pedophile and has been arrested for it and is in prison. And we were just talking about, oh my God, how could that happen? I don't know how that would have ever happened. And I'm glad that justice was done and it was internal in a family or whatever. But then he, as a lawyer, he told me, he said, you wouldn't believe how many divorces I've dealt with where one spouse will say about the other spouse, completely untrue, say my spouse molested my kid, and no facts, no evidence, but immediately. And he said, trying to get that stain off of you, even if you're completely innocent, is almost impossible. Wow. So it changes everything about your life. You can lose your job, you can lose your friendships, and think about that, being innocent of doing anything, but because of the spite of someone who hates you now.
Your image is destroyed.
So my thinking is, I think if there's an accountability to begin with, a process already in place that says if this goes wrong. Now, if all leaders were perfect and we lived by integrity all the time, then and a lot of leaders do. Yeah. But when you have leaders that take, I think the biggest challenge of the thing that's most provocative about this is the fact that you have authority. When you're a leader, you have emotional authority, you have even governing authority, you have even financial authority over someone else's life. And if you perpetrate something on them, do they really have recourse? And that's the whole thing about the victimization. The same thing, though, applies backwards if a person is accusing you unduly. Right. In our culture now, you basically have no recourse, even if you didn't do it, because we're coming after you because someone said you did, and they should just be believed.
And then we never see the people come back and say, I was wrong. I believe something that wasn't true. Yeah. You know, and I was thinking, what would you suggest then to people that are possibly in a setting, a church setting of let's say an independent church that really has no strong accountability structure, and you find out that there's accusations, but you know about it, but not a lot of people know about it. Yeah. What would be the direction to go? That's a tough spot, I know, because
here's what I would say. I would not tell a lot of people. Right. But I would first remove myself from that situation. If I'm in a church that has no accountability and the leadership of the church, I know for a fact, is doing things that are unethical and immoral, the first thing I'm going to do is disassociate myself from that.
I'm saying, what if you don't know for sure, but it's been brought to someone is accusing, they've come to you in an accusation?
I think you take it to what if there is anybody like a deacon board or whatever. I think the only recourse you have is to take it to them, and if they're not set up right to handle it, then they can't. But I still would remove myself from the situation, because you can't be sitting under that kind of unhealthy type thing and expect things to go well in your life. So you remove yourself, and if it's something that would be considered illegal, then you don't cast aspersions, you don't gossip about it, you don't talk to anybody. You go to whatever authority is needed, and you say, hey, look, I've been told, I don't know if this is true, but it's possible that there needs to be some kind of investigation, especially if it had to do with kids or sexual misconduct or abuse of something like that. There's no way around that, especially if you're a teacher or if you're a part of the ministry or whatever. You have a legal obligation,
and you can't feel guilt. You can't have that leader say, you should know me, you can come to me, which they would do to try if they were a manipulator.
It's happened a million times.
You have that legal obligation, and if they are.
But the truth is, here's how you find out the heart of a person who's in that mix. Okay, if you're a person who is not just trying to accuse or trying to jump on a bandwagon, you're not going to be sharing this with everybody.
That's right.
You're not going to be talking to all your family members about it, trying to figure out what should I do? A lot of times people will do that, what should I do, simply as a form of gossip or pray with me about. And the truth is, you go to the proper authorities, you go to the proper people, and you deal with it. You don't let it go. You investigate it yourself as much as you possibly can, but what you're looking for is truth, not confirmation. Okay? You're looking for the true situation, not just to confirm what this person thinks they know. You're looking for truth. What is actually happening. But I think you remove if there's not enough accountability to handle that or deal with that, you remove yourself from the situation, because there's nothing you can do about it.
Absolutely.
I've got another question that's provocative along these lines.
Well, we got just a few minutes.
How do you learn how to trust again after you have just been wiped out? Just by another leader, just wiped out. Well, I've got friends who won't step foot in the church because of something a pastor did, or they always bring it up. And there's certain, you've got to work through those things. But what would y'all say to a question like that?
Well, I would say, unfortunately, and listen, we don't bash the church, and this doesn't happen any more in the church than it does anywhere else, and probably not as much, but when it does, it's grievous, because
and it's put on display because
because
it's a place of moral high ground,
and to be honest, it should be. But unfortunately, there are far too many people that are in that boat. Like, how can I ever trust a leader again? How can I ever? And here's what you have to say to yourself, I think, as a believer. I'm just going to take the pastor hat off for a minute, and just as a believer, because I've been in situations where I'm not the pastor. And I'm just going to say, that, number one, who are you trusting really anyway? You shouldn't be putting all your trust in a man anyway, because that man, even if it's not immoral or unethical, at some point he's going to fail you in some way that's going to break trust to some level. May not like that, but to some level. And it may even just be perceived, but it's going to happen. So you got to put your trust in God and in God's word, not totally put all your trust in man. However, that's not an excuse for men to be foolish. No. You should also be able to trust. If your pastor is not trustworthy or credible, you shouldn't be in that church. If you can't trust them, don't be in there. So how do you move from that, though, when you've been injured, you've been hurt, and go to another place? I say it like this. I tell people in counseling for their marriage all the time, it's completely unfair if you've had a bad marriage and someone treated you bad, abused you, cheated on you, whatever, and that ended in divorce, and then you, after some time, cultivate a relationship with someone else, and then you get married to them, and you start accusing them of doing the things that your previous spouse did, or you start holding them to account for things that they didn't even do and don't even have the thought of doing. And what's happening is you're projecting your fears onto them. In other words, this is what has happened to me, and now I can't trust anybody, so I'm going to project it onto you. Well, you can do the same thing to a church. You can do the same thing to a business. You can do the same thing to a pastor. My previous pastor was a crook. You must be a crook too. What? Why? I mean, there are way more pastors that aren't crooks than are.
That's right.
Yeah, I'd say for me too, like I just, man, I'm a trusting person, so it's a little easier for me. Like I trust, but I told Shelly, I said, I'm not going to allow, like as Pastor David was even saying, I'm not going to allow a person's misgivings, mess ups, mistakes, even sin to dictate here now my mindset from here on out.
Yeah.
But, honestly too, I think when we were young, when Shelly and I were young, I thought most marriages were great. And then we'd counsel a couple here, a couple here. And I started seeing that half or more are struggling. And it just reminded me that there's no excuse for sin, and we can grow in maturity, but people are people, and there is a fine line between someone falling and messing up. We've seen the best throughout all of history do it. So I try to remember that, man, I don't know what got them to that place, but they are someone that can happen to anybody.
Anybody has a capability.
Anybody.
Yeah.
And so just because we wear the title of pastor, though we are accountable.
Right.
We're not perfect, and that helps me a bunch. And just
I'm going to close out with this too, because I really love what you said. And we're not throwing people away. We want them to make it. We want them to be better, but we're not going to sell out a victim on behalf of our infatuation with the leader.
Yeah.
But I would say also that the church has become a little bit too cavalier in its assignment of leaders. The Bible says in the book of James, be not many teachers, brethren, knowing that we receive the greater condemnation. Here's what it basically means. I know you think you want to be a leader in ministry, but you should really check yourself, because you're going to be judged at a higher level. That's not man's judgment. That's God's judgment. In other words, I'm not just holding you responsible for you. I'm holding you responsible for what others. And I think we really need to make sure, before we're sending people out into ministry or putting them in ministry roles, that they understand there is a spiritual component here too, of being held responsible by God for the people God's given you responsibility of. Yeah. And I think that is one thing, that fear, not fear as in being afraid, but that fear or reverence of God in ministry lives that says, hey, this role that I'm taking, this pastorate, this ministry role that's going to put me in leadership spiritually in people's lives, it is very serious to God, and it's not one that I should take lightly. And if I do something that's going to lead people astray, I mean, Peter, he's talking about people who are purposefully leading people astray, right? But he says that for people who get into the ministry and they purposefully lead people away from truth, and he said that the deepest, darkest judgment is reserved for them.
Yeah, there's so many scriptures.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
And I think we need to, as pastors and leaders in ministry, realize our fallibilities, realize our weaknesses and our humanity, and really do everything we can to structure, number one, our own personal spiritual life and our own personal accountability in ways that we don't chase after things that the world chases after. And we give up and sacrifice those things so that our life isn't taken that way, knowing that not only are we going to be judged by God, but knowing that we could hurt and hinder someone's eternity.
Yeah.
We could hurt and hinder someone's family. Yeah. We could hurt and hinder people's lives by just not being the committed spiritual person that we should be.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many, like, that's why it's important who you marry. It's why it's important you don't only do online church, but you're connected to a body. Yeah. I mean, I love all the guys who release recap videos of their week, like Stephen Furtick. All these guys are phenomenal. I learned so much from them. But they don't know you like your pastor is going to know you. Or the people in your small group are going to know you. And so it's important who you surround yourself with, even if you're not like the top level leader. If you want to be successful in life, it's good to have a wife that'll call you out every once in a while, or a husband who will, ask you questions about why you're doing certain things, or having a small group that can love on you and help you work through things.
Right.
Because it can't happen at a distance.
Right. That's good stuff. Now, we've heard almost nothing from the female in the group about
Y'all
this
just
issue.
talk too much.
Yeah. No, I want to just kind of hear from your perspective as we close out from these kind of things. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but how do you feel about this, and how, what's your take on it?
I think something that I think about is why people stay quiet. And I think the biggest reason is because they take that weight on as their fault, and they carry ownership of it. And so
I did something to cause this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just Satan.
Yeah.
Like feeding that lie. And so I think that is the reason that a lot of females don't speak up.
Yeah.
Is because they take that on.
Yeah. Was I
for themselves?
Was I flirting, or was
my shirt too low?
Yeah.
Were my pants too tight? Like anything simple as that.
And honestly, we believe in modesty, and we want women to be modest, and we want men to be modest. But the truth is, if someone does that to you, it's not your problem; it's their problem.
Right.
And I always like to tell guys who there's this. I've even heard some pastors say this, and there could be some truth to it, that the Bible even says that when we withhold ourselves from our spouse, that it's opening the door for them to be tempted for other things. But I've heard guys say, if my wife just had, would have sex with me more than I would, I wouldn't be cheating on them. And I'm like, Cop out. You cheated because you cheated. It's not because your wife. And I think this is the same thing. Maybe you were tempted.
There could be problems in your marriage you need to address.
Yeah, right. Sure. But the way to fix it is not cheating on your spouse.
Right.
Yeah.
Another problem.
Yeah. And the way to fix it is not blame your spouse for your actions. So I think the same thing is true here. I think that goes along with, don't you, that it's fear-based too.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't want to be perceived as a person, or what are people going to think of me, or what happens next.
Yes, because it's not only like you're not outing that person, you take on the shame of like it happened to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially if it's like the top level leader, it's always perceived as the girl was maybe just a little scandalous.
Right.
I mean, the leader couldn't have done that. She had to be,
because he already is in the good lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the girl, it's like he can say anything, and probably majority of the people are going to believe it.
He has the mic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let's shift that too for a minute. It's not just men.
Right.
More and more and more today in our culture, we're seeing this happen with women leaders who are using their authority and their whatever to put pressure on men. I mean, just like think of Potiphar's wife. I mean, even way back when, she accused Joseph. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So my thought is, what do guys do? Because it's a whole different type of victimization when a guy has that done to him than it is a girl. Because I could say a woman probably already feels, I don't know how to say that really. Well, where a guy because of our upbringing or whatever would feel embarrassed to even say anything. Like it's almost expected, that you're with that, because for girls it's like you're bad if that happens to you, and if for guys it's like, hey, attaboy, and truthfully,
the double standard.
There's a whole double standard in every kind of complicated way around this issue. And the bottom line is, victims are victims, perpetrators are perpetrators, and we've got to treat them as such, and we want restoration for both.
Yeah, it's like an abuse of a God-given ability to influence in a lot of ways. Like women, there's some women that just have the ability to influence wherever they go. Same with guys. Yeah. And it's like you're abusing what God meant for you to use in a positive light for your own personal gain in a negative way.
Well, and listen, if somebody has your personal economy in their hand.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest.
That's right.
Right. It's that's intimidating.
Master manipulation.
So here's what I would advise anybody who has anything like that. Just I'm not saying if it happens, you need to deal with it. But if it's moving that direction and you feel like something could be happening, or things were said to you that were inappropriate, or there was a little bit of flirting that you felt like, hey, that's weird. Get out of there. The Bible says flee that stuff. That's what Joseph did. He ran.
Yeah.
He ran from that lady. So I'm just saying, when a person feels uncomfortable, they should listen to their conscience and
Right.
go, hey, I'm not letting this go any further.
Yeah.
I always believe in this. I hate it when someone's victimized and perpetrated, and I think we should go to whatever lengths to help people who have been victimized in any situation, especially when it was someone in authority over them that victimized them. I think that we need to always take care of that, but at the same time, I always think it's better to prevent things than have to fix it after it happened.
Sure,
so if you know, hey, that guy is coming on strong, what's up? Or hey, that lady, man, she's looking at me weird. I don't feel right. I feel like something's not right here. Just go.
Yeah.
There's a better place to be.
Right.
And well, that's not
With your
fair.
spouse.
Yes, that's not. That's not fair.
It's good to have a good husband
Right.
or wife, because my wife will tell me, hey, I know you don't think it's a big deal, but I see this happening
Right.
and it needs to stop.
Right.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like,
Yeah.
well, I see it. So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta trust,
Hey, listen,
you gotta trust that voice.
I always listen. My wife's not a suspicious person,
Right.
so I know that.
Yeah.
She's not a jealous person. I know that. And so when she sees something that doesn't seem inappropriate, and she says, "Listen, you need to watch this," I go, because I'm naive.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my age or whatever, but I'm naive. I don't have a clue. If somebody was being flirty with me, I would know it. I would just think they're being friendly. And I grew up. We got married when I was 19.
Yeah.
I didn't go.
Same.
I wasn't on the bar scene or dating scene. I don't. I don't know what that looks
Yeah.
like.
And we tend to think the best about people. It's like you see a ring,
Yes.
they're
Of
not going to
course.
do anything.
Right.
They
Right.
know
Of course.
I'm married.
No, it's
Yes.
true. We do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would encourage everybody to I've had this in my own life through being in ministry for a while, and even just volunteering for 12 years. But if there's someone on staff that you particularly have a strong trust with and connect with, like if it were you or me, Connor, or you and Amanda or whatever, there's been times where I've just literally said to them, I was like, listen, there's this lady that I feel like she's like flirting with me, and I just don't want him to be anything misconstrued by the way that I'm reacting back,
Right.
or anything like that. Could you have full access to watch at times when I don't even know you're watching it?
Yeah.
Call me out on it, or just if you see that observance, let me know, because your spouse will pick up on it if they're there. But
Sure.
a lot of times they're not there with
Sure.
us.
Yeah.
And open yourself up to, not to anybody, but to those people you trust.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they can say, no, you're right.
I had a
Right.
pastor
That's
friend
right.
that I was working for,
That's good, Scotty.
and there was a girl. She was in our church, and of course, I've been married since I was 19, and her husband was gone all the time. She was very lonely. She was a young lady, and we helped her with her son sometimes. He was a little toddler, and so Janae and I didn't have kids, so we'd take him to the park and we'd whatever. And one day my pastor's wife came to me and said, "Hey, listen, you need to cut that out." I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, she's got her eyes on you. And I said, "No, she doesn't. Me and Janae are around her all day." Yes, she does. And she said, "I've been watching." And what we thought, her son was just running up to us. Like she would see me at church, and her little son would run up to me and hug me. And what I didn't realize is she was sending him to me so she could come and do this. Now, what happened was later, about 2-3 weeks later, after I was warned about this, she texted me, and she was teaching a class or something like that. Not text me. We didn't have text back there. She called up the church, and she said, "Hey, I need some study materials for my Sunday school class. Would you bring them to my house?" Now, this is sound like a weird thing, but how God intervenes. And I'm sitting there talking to the secretary of the church, and I'm like, "Man, they warned me about this. You think this is that?" "Oh," she said, "Oh, stop. There's nothing. That girl, stop it. She's fine. They're being suspicious, blah, blah, blah." Because she was naive like I was. So literally, I am not lying to you, this happened. So I was kind of pacing back and forth, and what should I do? I mean, it sounds weird, but normally I would have just done it, but I had that warning, And so So I'm walking back and forth, and there's a Bible, the secretary's Bible sitting on her desk, and I'm just walking back and forth, and I pick it up and I throw it open. I'm just walking back and forth, and it was to Proverbs chapter 5. I swear to you, and the only thing highlighted in those 2 pages of those chapters was this, and it was the New Living Translation. Here's what it said: "Do not go near her house."
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
I showed it to the secretary. She said, "Well, we were wrong."
That reminds me of what Jensen Franklin, he was talking to T.F. Tenney. I don't know if you know, he's a really old guy. He may have already passed, but he said he called T.F. Tenney one time, or T.F. Tenney called him, and he would just drop like one-liners on him and then hang the phone up. And he like mimics his voice, but he said, "Jensen, 2 things that I'm against adultery, and here's 2 reasons why. 1, God's against it. 2, they always tell." That's what he told Jensen Franklin. When I heard that, man, I busted out laughing, but it's so true.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
So
your
true.
sins, my grandmother used to always say, your sins will find you out.
It's the truth.
God's
So
against it,
anyway,
they always
I'm
tell.
sure we're being funny, and we don't live our lives by dropping the Bible open and all that kind of stuff. But here's what I am saying to you: if you'll be sensitive to the Holy Spirit, and we really humble ourselves before God, He'll keep us on the straight and narrow, and these
Right.
things that would pull us off. And we just need to have righteous hearts, and always remember that justice is a principle that God wants to be established in the earth, and He says He will fight for justice. But at the same time, justice is in one hand, righteousness is in the other.
right.
And we see we want justice without any righteousness, and we
Right.
see a lot of righteousness without any justice. So what we need to do is get the balance of that in our lives and really walk that out.
good.
Yeah.
Thanks.